Professor Kwangil Lee from the Korea Maritime and Ocean University. So he is first going to talk about the gap analysis of the international standards for development of the digital connectivity in the autonomous ship.
Hi, my name is Kwangil Lee from Korea Maritime and Ocean University. It is my great pleasure to present in ICMASS 2022. The title of my talk is Analysis of the International Standards for the Development of the Data Connectivity in the Autonomous Ship. The content of my talk is a little bit explain about my background, and then IMO, IC, ISO activities will be introduced, and then I'm going to introduce the gap analysis and the conclusions. Digitalization in the maritime industry is currently hot issue. So in navigation, smart ship, autonomous unmanned ship, Ping 4.0, smart port. This is some keyword related with digitalization in the maritime industry. Mass accelerated digitalization and automation in the maritime industry. The ultimate goal is in the maritime MASS is using the MASS, the factory to customer or customer ship logistics or maritime ITS shall be automated. I think the maritime ITS, a seamless maritime digital connectivity, will be essential part. How we can achieve this one? All maritime services shall be automated and streamlined without any human interruptions. Device and system shall be integrated into and operated by digitalizations. For this, all system and devices in the ship need to be operated and monitored automatically. The problem is there are too many stakeholders related with this seamless maritime connectivity. How we can harmonize all devices, systems, services, including data. At this moment, they are using their own data devices systems. So to solve this problem, we might need a new international standard from us. Then what kinds of international standards need to be developed or modified or use the current standard? We need to consider three major international standards. IMO is more defines regulations and some performance standards for the navigation operation. IEC is defines radio communication and navigation equipment. ISO standards for the ship operation standard. So IMO, IEC related with mass navigation, IMO, ISO so related operations, and then all three IMO has critical roles for the regulations. We need to define. We need to consider the regulation first to realize the mass. Actually, IMO MSC finalized the RSC in the last May, so they are defining the future works. However, still no decision on the autonomous equipment and service. This means what kinds of standards need to be used or need to be developed for mass. Those kind of decision is not made yet. Currently, the scoping exercise is finalized. Also, IMO FAL committee, they are considering the automation in the FAL convention. For this work, they are defining data elements related with FAL convention. They are defining all elements for the ship-to-shore reporting part. So they are defining data set for the FAL services. This is very critical for the ship automated ship reporting. IEC is defining some activities related with MAS. I think a route plan, which is standardized in 2021 last year. So route plan includes the schedule information and some kind of action information, waypoint information. This is a very critical component for the vessel voyage for navigation control. So this is related with mass control, navigation control. So when S41 is developed, they are defining some service scenario. So this can be used the operation scenario, the mass and shore control center. So this can be used for the remote control autonomous ship services. IC also defined which is called SECOM. So this is defined the reliable ship to shore communication. This is a RESTful-based services, and there's some cyber security, and they are defining the encryption, and their own defined PKI structure are defined. ISO 19847 and 19848 is defining data server and data format for the ship operation data. This is they identify all data elements for the ship sensor information. So this information, this standard, can be used for the data exchange for the ship sensor information. Also, ISO is developing general requirements for asynchronous time ship-to-shore communication. So they are defining the general requirements. This is the general requirements for the ship-to-shore communication, secure communication. ISO is also defining data standard for electric port clearance message. This is harmonizing with IMO file committee. They are defining data exchange. So they are defining the core data elements for electronic messaging between ship and shores. Also, they are proposing new standard for the data exchange for automated operations for ship and port. So this is interaction between MAS and then smart port. This is a very important work for the MAS, I think. This is I summarized some international standards for ship perspective. So on the left side is general sensor and equipment. This using this sensor information, and then they are collecting some integrated system. And this system is actually communicating with shore. The orange part is currently there is a standard currently, but needs to be updated for the MAS. The red part is currently standard. There is no standard for the MAS, and then blue part is currently defined, which can be used for the MAS without any changes. And then black part is there is no international standard. So some standards need to be used, some parts need to be standardized, and some standards need to be updated for the MAS. There is another perspective for the MAS standard: communication, data, and service part. So currently, IES, AIS, and MTEC data, and SECOM. So these kinds of communication service layer are already defined, and then there are undergoing work for VD and 5G. But shore control API and then some master specific API need to be defined. And then some security part are defined, but what kinds of PKI shall be used for the MAS, that does not define yet. For the data, IHO defined S100 and IS 19848, and then route plan, some data elements are defined, but this is core file core IMO requirements, but some service-specific API does not define. For the service perspective, we need a lot of standards. Some international standards defined for software maintenance and auto reporting, and then risk management and evaluation. This might be necessary, but route planning, monitoring, and some innovation-related service need to be standardized and need to be updated. And then remote control, auto-reversing, and remote maintenance and autonomous service needs to be defined as an international standard. This standard might be necessary. I'm going to summarize briefly. IMO is defined MSC and FAR is working on the standard, and performance standard for the existing and new standard new equipment might be necessary for the MAS. IEC is defining test and interface standard for the MAS. ISO defining short port interface and automation in the port. Those kind of things need to be defined. Still, some gaps are defined. Automated autonomous service need to be defined, and performance standards for the autonomous system and division, new equipment, and system standard for the MAS might be necessary. So we need to define common maritime PKI need to be considered for the ship-to-shore communication. Thank you.
Unfortunately,